So the ARM processor performs 5 operations in parallel. Fetch, decode, ALU operations. This we have seen in the computer organization subject, but here we are going to see 2 more stages that we will take one by one. Now, as you know, fetch is nothing but in this particular phase, the instruction is fetched from the memory, which is pointed by PC, and it is loaded into the core and the processes down the core pipeline. So it is processed. It is just fetched. Means from the memory, the instruction pointed by PC is fetched. Now coming to decode, decode the instruction that was fetched in the previous cycle. So in the previous cycle, whatever the instruction was fetched, that was decoded here. And what happens here is it reads the input operands from the register banks if they are not available. If that particular instruction doesn't have the operands, required input operands, it is going to read it from the memory. Now, other register bank. ALU, as all of you know, that it is used for executing, for performing the data processing, some calculations. And now, normally this involves calculating the answer for a data processing operation or the address for a load store or branch operations. Many times we may have to add the offset to the instructions. So for that also we make use of ALU. Some instructions may spend several cycles in this stage. That depends upon the type of instructions we use. That is multiply and register control shift operation. Usually multiply and shift operations will take several ALU cycles. Now these are commonly used phases. The next 2 phases is LS1, LS2. What is LS1? Usually this stage where it is used by load and store instructions. Basically it is used by load and store. If the instruction is not a load and store, then the stage has no effect. LS2, again, using load and store instruction, if you perform any sign extension, then this stage is useful. LS2 is useful. So LS1 and LS2, basically it is used along with load and store instruction. Now let's see the general structure. So fetch, decode, ALU, LS1 and LS2. Now let me just take a simple example. If I'm fetching an instruction pointed by PC whose address is 1016, then that instruction is fetched. So -4. So 1016 minus 4 is what? 1012. That instruction is decoded. 1016 minus 8. That is again 1008. That the instruction pointed by that address is taken to ALU. Again, 1016 minus 12 is 1004. That particular instruction pointed by that address is in the LS1, and 1016 minus 16, that is 1000 instruction, is in LS2. So if 1000 instruction is in this LS2 stage, then all these previous parallelly, the previous cycles will be having the next coming instructions. So this is the pipeline. Now this we will take an example and we'll try to understand this. We have 2 instructions, LDR and add. So we have to make use of LS1 stage. LDR is there and normal add instruction is there. So first let us take the example and then let us brief this. So let's take the same example, LDR R1 comma R2 comma #4. It's in square brackets. So what do you understand from this? This particular source is actually source operand is in the memory and the address is given by R2 and we have to add #4 to this. So it is not directly specified. This you have to keep in mind. Now LDR instruction is being fetched, decoded, and now it is executing in the ALU. Now what's happening here is LDR, when it is in the ALU, now ALU will understand that it requires R2. So it requires R2, means it's in the square bracket. From the memory, it has to be brought. So this LDR instruction is pushed to LS1 stage. Now in this stage, what is happening? The R2 content has to be taken and it has to be added with 4, and we get an address. The contents present in that address will be loaded to R1. So much we have to do here. So LDR from the ALU phase is directly pushed to LS1. So following LDR, we have add instruction in ALU. But if you see here, add instruction has the operands like this: add R0, R0, R1. So R1 you can get only if you finish this task. Only if you finish this task, R1 can be loaded, and that R1 we can use it for add. So you can understand the interdependency. Henceforth, now add instruction cannot be performed until unless LDR finishes its task completely. I hope things are clear to you. So when once LDR finishes the complete task, it moves to LS2 state. So means that when once it moves to the next stage, means that the entire computation is over and R1 is loaded with the contents. Now, only after that, only after LDR moving to LS2, only then R1 will be loaded with the contents. Now, add instruction can be performed by ALU. So this is the interdependency. So to summarize this instruction pair takes 3 cycles. The ALU calculates the addresses R2 plus 4 in the first cycle while decoding the add instruction in parallel. However, the add cannot proceed on the second cycle, we saw, because the load instruction has not yet loaded the value of R1. So henceforth, therefore, the pipeline stalls for 1 cycle. It goes to the wait state for 1 cycle, while the load instruction completes the LS1 stage. When once R1 is ready, the processor executes the add in the ALU on the third cycle. Only after that, the add instruction is executed. So this is how the pipelining concepts works. Let's go to the next topic, register allocation. Now, in case of register allocation, let us see argument registers. The ATPCS conventions defines that the first 4 arguments to a functions are placed in registers R0 to R3. So in any program, if you use some 5-6 variables, then among them first 4 variables will be mapped onto R0 to R3, and the remaining variables are placed on stack. This is one standard, and the return value must always be placed in R0. So some standards they follow here. Now, registers used in load or store multiple means when we are using the load store with multiple data, how it works. In that case, it makes use of a lot of registers, R0, R1, R2, R3, R4, like that. So if you are using these registers like R0, R1, R2, R3, you should keep one thing in mind. Always R0 using the lower address and than R1. Again, R1 is using the lower address than R2. We discussed this in the previous examples. So R0 is the lowest address and R1 is the next address, and R2 is address is higher than R1. So it goes like that. So again, it follows that particular hierarchy. Coming to load and store double word. So these instructions introduced here operate on a pair of registers. So it is a double word. So it will be operating on pair of registers. So R0, R1, R2, R3. In that case, how we have to work? We should always go with the even register numbers. Means when you're working with double word, when you take R0, it will take R0 and R1. So the next register what you can choose will be R2. So you can choose R0, R2, R4, R6. So when you take R2, it will take R2 and R3. If you take R4, it will take R4 and R5. So internally, it will take 2, 2. So the starting address should be the even register number like R0, R2, R4, R6. So using more than 14 local variables, as discussed earlier, if there are more than 14 local variables, because we have 14 set of registers, if it goes beyond, then make use of stack. Making the most of available registers. So on a load store architecture such as ARM, it is more efficient to access values held in registers than the data present in memory. As usual, you know, the context switching will take more time when you're accessing from memory. Coming to the conditional execution, the processor core can conditionally execute most ARM instructions. These conditions we saw based on the flags, greater than, lesser than, smaller, zero flag, jump on zero, jump on negative. If you don't specify any condition, then by default it will not apply any condition. It will be applicable for all the operations. Now let's take one example. Here, what are we doing? We are using a C code which converts the unsigned integers from 0 to 15 to hexadecimal characters. Means all of you know 0 to 9 there is no hassle, but from 10 it has to be displayed as the alpha characters like A, B, C, D, E, F. How to go about? We have two types of code. One is the C code and the other one is the assembly code. We will see the C code first. If I is less than 10, then C equals I plus 0. Means if it is in, let's take 0 only. So what we do? So it is 0 plus the same 0 it is. What will be substituted to C? It is the 0. So this, whatever we are putting in a quotes, it's internal ASCII value. So its internal ASCII value, that value will be added to this. Suppose if you take 0, the ASCII value of that is 30. Then 30 will be added with 0. 30, what is C initialized with? 30, but actually it is 0. Internally the ASCII value is 30. Suppose if we take 1, now I is 1. So what will happen? This is 30. 30 plus 1, 31. Internally representation is 31, but when you put it onto the monitor, it will give its actual number, that is 1. So in the same way, it goes till 9. So 9 less than 10, yes, true. So 30 plus 9, 39. Internally it is 39. When you're displaying, it becomes 9 only. Now comes if it is 10. If it is 10, so what we are going, this condition fails. We are using conditional branching. So it goes to this code, else part. So the I value is 10. 10 minus 10, it is 0. Whatever is the alphabet here, A, that will be substituted to C. Now, next one is 11. So 11 minus 10, it is 1. So again, you are seeing A is in quotes, means it has got some ASCII value. So if it is 10, so 10 minus 10, it is 0. And whatever is the ASCII value of A, that will be substituted to C. Now comes 11. I is 11. So I is 11. 11 minus 10. So remainder is 1. That 1 will be added to the ASCII value of A. Suppose its value is 48 or something. So 48 is A, plus 1 means 49. That 49 is substituted to C, but when you're displaying, that will display it as B. So it goes like that. So again, if it is 12, 12 minus 10, that is 2. So 2 will be added to the ASCII value of A. Whatever we get it, that will be substituted to C. So in this way, we are making use of conditional branching. The same thing we can write it in assembly code. How? You're comparing the I with #10, what we are doing here. If it is lower, add lower, then I is added with the ASCII value of 0. I and ASCII value of 0 is added. Whatever the value comes, that is initialized to C. If it is higher, then if, for example, I is greater than 10, then we are going to make use of this. That gets subtracted with 10. The remaining value will be added to the ASCII value of A. That will be put to C. So this as a 3-line of assembly code which performs the same task performed by this particular C